I don't think it has enhanced the projections of our sport.
What's up, guys, and welcome. You are watching Fazi Fitness. So, shout out to Ron Harris Muscle for conducting this interview with the legend, 8 times Miss Olympia Liheni, the guy who retired undefeated as a champion in 1991, and that too at just the age of 31. So, that statistic itself is just insane, considering guys in the last 2 decades or so, they have continued to compete up until their mid 40s. Now, there is nothing wrong with that. But I bet there won't be an Olympia champion again who is gonna win 8 Olympia titles and retire at such an early age. Now, whether you are a fan of a physique like Nick Walker or Hadi or Derek or Andrew or Samson, as a fan, you should listen to this whole interview because this is gonna give you a totally different perspective. It is basically Liheni's perspective.
You look at physiques like a Hadi, and you look at Derek, you know, they are in a sort of that's a different category. I wouldn't mind if there was 2 different categories.
Really?
I think those guys, with that type of physique is a certain look.
So remember that time back in the 70s when the Olympia had a tall and a short call, where Arnold Schwarzenegger was a perfect representation of tall guys, and Franco Columbu, he represented short guys. So this is kind of what Liheni wants, because he isn't a big fan of physiques like Hadi Choopan or Derek or Nick Walker. Now this is a different year, where we have so many of the former IFB pros, some legends of the sport, and even some current pros, and even some active pros, who are rooting for either Samson Dauda or Andrew Jack to win the Olympia and become the biggest ambassador of the sport.
And I think a lot of the world would like to see, in the bodybuilding world, for instance, to see that Excalibur look put back where it should have never left. So in order to do that and appease everybody, I think there need to be a second category. During Arnold and Franco Day, you had that.
So what is the commonality between Andrew, Samson, and Liheni? Well, all of them were over 6 feet tall, and they all represent their statuesque physiques, with incredible V-taper, crazy X-frame, insane aesthetics. So by Liheni's metric, a guy like Nick Walker, he should never be crowned Miss Olympia and be the biggest representative of the sport of bodybuilding. Now, will this idea be applicable? I'm gonna say no, not at all.
I think it's a thing of beauty that the general public say, man, I want to look like that. I wanted to look like Arnold. I wanted to look like Robbie. I wanted to look like Frank Zane. So you really have to look at it. And then when you go into the classic physique.
Because Hadi Choopan as well as Derek Lunsford, I do not believe they are blocky looking physiques. I think both of these guys, they flow extremely damn well. Because if that was the case, then how come Samson Dauda did not expose Hadi Choopan at this year's Arnold? And I think most of you guys will agree that both Hadi as well as Derek, they have great symmetry, especially when they start posing, when they are in the pose. Now that idea of having shredded glutes, that's 100% overrated. Yes, it should count, but not as much as they are. So what do you guys think about the suggestion of Liheni? Should there be a separate division for the shorter guys in the men's open class? Or should the taller guys, they need to up their games? Because if we really think about it, there is already a class for the shorter guys, and that is called 212. And both of these guys that Liheni just mentioned, they outgrew that 212 division. So let me know what you guys think about this suggestion in the comments. So next up we have a 1 week out physique update from Theo Liguerrier. So was Theo entering this year's France Pro and getting beat by Andrea Presti? Was that a mistake? Well, it wasn't the first time Theo got beat by Andrea Presti. And Andrea Presti is one of the best bodybuilders from UK. But the thing is, that also solidified one fact, that Theo is gonna have zero chance of cracking top 10 at his 3rd consecutive Miss Olympia. And that is the thing, he's representing his country, France, in this show. And that in itself is such a great accomplishment, and something to be really proud of. So was Theo off at this year's France Pro? Well, I'm gonna say he was bang on target, especially in terms of conditioning. And just like Andrea Presti, Theo is a guy who just never misses his mark on the day of the show. So when you are standing next to a guy like Samson Dauda, a guy who is just so damn thick and so muscular, not to mention so damn aesthetic, your weakness is the lack of enough muscularity, especially on a guy like Theo, that is exposed a lot. And that is what we saw happen in France. But the good thing is that Theo Warrior is also a tall guy, so he can continue to get bigger, put on more size, more mass in the upcoming years, and fill up those shallow areas of his physique. So Theo played it really smart, especially last year, by doing the last Olympia qualifier, which was Japan Pro. So he might do the same thing this year as well, and do the big man weekend in December, and secure his Olympia spot for 2025. Next up, we have an update from Chris Bumstead. The strength of Bumstead even this close to the Olympia, when he is low carbing, and he must be on the lowest possible calories. That strength, I have to say, is no joke. Just count those number of plates that C-Bum is using for that working set on the leg press. I mean, that guy has trained with the likes of Ian Valier, Brad Wilkin, and not to mention Hadi Chopin as well. And he keeps up with them. And all three of these guys, they have insane level of strength. So it has been a while since Chris Bumstead posted any physique updates. So maybe he wants to bring back that element of shock to Miss Olympia stage this year by showing up at his all-time best. So C-Bum really took care of his body more than ever this year, because his body is more beat up than ever. More beat up than all the other guys who are gonna be potentially challenging him for this year's Olympia title. So Chris has been competing non-stop since 2017. Yes, he did only one show per year, but he himself now admits that just because he trained so heavy and so hard, and sometimes he was very reckless in the beginning of his career, that eventually got to him, and that is one of the reasons he had those injuries. So C-Bum at 10 weeks out of this year's Olympia said it out loud that he wants this to be the best physique of his career. And I think we can all agree, his best means number 6 in the bag. Have you guys also heard this rumor that a big name is gonna drop out of this year's Miss Olympia? Let's just hope that this is just a rumor, because we already have 4 names who are missing from this year's Olympia stage, who were able to make top 10 last year, like Tonya Burton, Regan Grimes, Michael Krizo, and Charles Griffin. Not to mention guys like Nathan Diesha and Behrouz Tabani. So should we be concerned that the mutant Nick Fokker hasn't published any post in these last 7 days or so? And yes, I know, he said that he is gonna stay covered up all the way till this year's Miss Olympia. But still, he was continuously putting out training updates, motivational updates, up until 2 weeks out of this year's Miss Olympia. And that too every single day. And suddenly there has been nothing. Although today he posted this story of morning cardio. So hopefully everything is fine with him. And hopefully he comes in at his all-time best and shocks the entire bodybuilding world. So last year it was a hamstring tear that forced him to sit out of the Olympia last year. And that is the show that he still thinks to this day he could have won. So Nick Fokker is the one who represents the freak of nature. And whether you are a fan of his physique or not, you wanna see him on the Olympia stage, because he brings so much excitement and so much energy to that Olympia stage. Unfortunately, as I was making this video, that bad news broke, and this is confirmed by Nick Fokker and his coach Matt Jensen as well, that he is out of this year's Miss Olympia.
I think that my most important job in all of this is to protect Nick, to protect his image, to protect his health, and those are all the decisions and thought processes that I had that came to making this decision.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much like you said, this is probably the hardest decision, Obviously last year with the injury, that was one thing, but, I felt I was in a very good spot going into this prep, how I felt, and I guess, like what Matt said, I think I operate better in chaos, and coming here for the Olympia prep, I truly felt relaxed. I felt okay, and I guess my body did too, and my body just said I need a break. I need to relax, and that was it. And I think a lot of the stress that I, endured over the past year just kind of caught up, and this prep obviously did not go the way we wanted it to, and it sucks.
Now, no particular reason was given, just the fact that his body just wasn't responding very well. And actually, I did talk about this, that he looks nowhere at 3 weeks out in his last YouTube video. And I have to say, this is really heartbreaking. 2 years in a row, and Nick almost breaks down while addressing it to the public in this video, which was so hard to watch. Hopefully he can deal with this mentally, take a break from bodybuilding, and just enjoy his life for the moment. Because there is just no other way to put this out, that this is a big blow to Nick Fokker's career, and also to this year's Olympia as well.
that I gotta miss the Olympia that I worked so hard for. You know, and there's so many things that come into play because it's like, all I want to do is win the Olympia for myself and be Matt's first Olympia winner, Open Olympia winner.
So really excited to see the classic physique Olympia debut of Fabian, the Charlotte Cup winner from earlier this year. And the man is looking so classic. Just a week out of this year's Olympia. Look at his arms, next to Bruno Santos. Fabian has the biggest arms in classic physique. And the man looks so damn classic because of that insane V-taper. Especially his front is just so exceptional. Big bubbly quads, vacuum, and a small waistline. So a top 10 finish at his classic physique Olympia debut. That is gonna be such a huge accomplishment. But the thing is, top 10, they are absolutely stacked. But that is Fabian's goal. Now, even if he is able to place top 15 in a total of 60 guys, that is also gonna be a good Olympia debut. So he was supposed to compete in classic physique back in 2022, but he switched over to the men's open, and he also took retirement afterwards. So he better make his Olympia debut worth waiting for. So hit the thumbs up button if you liked the video, and smash the subscribe button if you wanna come back for more. Thanks for watching.